Good morning, afternoon and evening, my crazies. My name's Angela. I'm the Crazy Poppy Lady and welcome back. Okay, so today's video might be a little bit longer than normal, but not as long as some. So let's get through the titles and play catch up, shall we? Right, so the very first thing we'll get over and done with on the quick is the video roundup. Now this is going to be covering the next 2 weeks, or from the last time I put up a Whips, Bits and Chat, which was 185. Okay, now this is because I was actually at my mother and father-in-law's in Australia for 2 weeks, giving them a hand after my father-in-law had an operation. So let's try and get back on track. Let's try and get you some half decent content out over the next couple of weeks. Right, but going back to it, the very first video that came out was 500 toys to knit, crochet, sew and felt, or felt and sew, depending on how you read it. Now that was a little book that could, in theory, fit inside a project bag if you were going out. It does cover a lot of different ideas. It's worth a nose, even just to have a look and go, no, I wouldn't make that. So I'm going to pop that one in the I button up the top there. The next video out was an Enable Alert Australia. It was for Spotlight Millends. Heck, while I'm there, why not buy a few? I just didn't get any deals. I'll tell you about that later. And then the next video up was the Baby Booties and Slippers book review. Now again, that one will be in the I button. It's a nice one to have a quick nose over. You never know, there might be a pattern in there that you like the look of. And you know that little person would absolutely love his new booties or her new booties. Okay, next up. Now this one, I'm quite shocked. Well, I've had 17 views on it. But then saying that, in this last couple of weeks, my views have plummeted because I don't think all of you realised I was still going to put out content while I was away. But this one is backpack strapping, how to make and fit. Now, the reason I've put this one up is, of course, I've got the monkey pattern out there, so I thought I would record that. And that video is actually linked in the pattern as well. So it means then you've got a little extra guidance if you need it, but it's a nice one to have in your back pocket, so to speak, because if you decide to venture off and make a quick rucksack or a simple rucksack yourself, there's a video there to show you how to add on straps that you would have bought from a local shop. Now the next video up is the Crazy Moo giveaway winner announcement. If you haven't seen it, run because the winner has until Wednesday to claim, and then her prize will be forfeited, or his prize will be forfeited, and another winner will be announced on next week's Whips, Bits and Chat. So if you haven't seen it yet, go and have a nose. Just make sure that it wasn't you that won, and that is definitely in that I button. Now the next video up, or should I say the last video up, is the Cute and Easy Crochet by Nikki Trench. It's another one of Nikki's books. I've got quite a few of Nikki's books already filmed on the channel and in the book playlist. So if you want to have a nose at that one, follow the links that are within that description box if I've put them there. I hope I have. If not, don't panic. I'll run off and do that now so you won't know that there's any difference and that I've forgotten to do something. Again, it's a nice one. I've had people saying, oh, this isn't a bad book for those scrap yarn projects. I don't actually remember. I found this book review and the previous one on my hard drive and I was like, have I put this up? So I'd come in and checked YouTube and I hadn't, and I was relieved because I then had 2 book reviews, so I knew I didn't have to worry as much while I was away because it gave you something to come and visit the channel for. Okay, so that is the video review for the last fortnight. Not many, just enough to keep you going. Okay, so what did I get up to while I was in Australia? Okay, for anybody that doesn't know, my mother and father-in-law live over in Australia. They needed a little bit of extra help because they had a couple of medical things going on a fortnight ago. So I flew over to give them a hand around the house until my father-in-law was basically back on his feet. So that's where I've been the last 2 weeks. Now, while I was there, I did manage to get some crocheting done. I flew out with a big fat 400 grams ball of pink worsted weight yarn, or an off pink I should say. Now this guy isn't finished, so I'm not going to spoil it too much, but just know there is another bag in the pipeline. And the monkey bag, of course, this one here that quite a few of you really love, needed a friend, so there is a pink thing coming up at a later point. I'm not going to tell you any more than that. By all means, guess in the comment section down below. It's not very difficult, not very hard, and there is not a competition attached, just for bragging rights. And then I managed to go to Spotlight. I only did the one trip out, and I thought, right, I had an idea in my head that I wanted to play with. I wanted to make another top in a sort of square. And so I grabbed 3 colours. There was a white, a blue, and was it a lighter blue? Yeah, a lighter blue and a darker blue. But as I was building it up, I didn't like it. I didn't like the colour order. So ripped it all back and just worked on the white. So there's a quick idea of what you could be looking at, and I might even do that one so it's on the channel. Just means I've got to sit up here and record. But I'll get it done, I'll get it done. So that's going to be a top. Now that was made in a DK weight yarn, which is a 3 weight or an 8 ply. I'm good at this. But what I also picked up was more mill end bags, because we all know Poppy loves her mill end. Now the problem was I missed their sale. They were, when I landed, they were $7.20. By the time I got there, they were back up to $12. Which you might go, really? Is that all? But for me, I've never paid full price for them. Or at least what I see is a full price. But then when I do the conversion, that's still only about £6. And so it still works out at what, $1.25 per 100 grams? So I'm happy with that still. It's just nicer if I can feel like I'm getting freebies, sort of buy 2 bags, get 1 free sort of scenario. Well, I picked up 3. 3 of these I did. 3. And, hold on. I stitched myself up again. Because I only went and got that granny square yarn in a different colour. I know. I said when I was playing around with the red one, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't like it. And then a couple of weeks later, I went back and I found different shapes. And it turns out I just don't like granny squares. So, I started making hexagons. Granny hexagons instead. And I'm making myself a top. Well, I got through my first bag of hexagons and, first bag of mill end, which is this one here. Or is it? Oh, I don't know, I'm lost. I got through my first one and I didn't lose too much at the beginning and at the end of the ball. on the first one. So I was pretty chuffed with that. No, actually, I got that wrong. Rewind. Let's start again. Right, so where is that third bag? I'm going to have to go and find it. Right, so I'm starting again. I've got the proper bag this time. Now, this was the colourway that I picked up. This was the colourway that I actually wanted to play with. But as I pulled out the first lot of yarn, the colourways didn't match the one that I thought it was. So I've jumped back onto Yarnspirations. And I was like, oh, okay, I've got the wrong one. I've got the one that starts with a white in the middle and ends in a black. Whereas I thought it was the other way round. So I start making up my hexagons. And I'm using a join as you go method. So there we go. Look at that. I love this colourway. Right? And I was ever so proud of myself. And then I've started working on the next one. And I found a knot very, very early on. So I was like, oh, brill, okay. Let's yank all that out, wind it up, check and see if it's the right amount. Well, it wasn't. And it turned out it was the wrong way round. So I've started working from the other end, sort of winding it into balls. And it still wasn't working. It wasn't like a centre pull sort of scenario. And I realised I've got two very magic squares in this black, beige, dark blue, brown and taupe mix. Okay, so that's this one. But the rest of the bag, let's do it this way, is in, oh crikey, have I got a whole one? Yeah, down there. It's just too many bags. Too many bags. Okay, now this hasn't got its last round done. There is a reason for this. I'm using the join as you go method. Right, but anyway, I'll explain that a bit more in a second. Now, this one is what came out next. Okay, so that's a black in the middle with the taupe, with a beige and then a grey and then a whiter. Well, it's actually got a really light mint undertone, and I'm talking minutely light. You don't notice it until you put it together into something bigger, and then it looks more minty than white. All right, so it just looks like someone's got a tester pot of mint and dumped it into a 2-gallon drum of white paint and mixed it up. It's that light. Yeah, so I was like, okay, this was the one I thought I had in the first place, whereas of course it don't match. So I started winding up the colourways into its individual balls so that I could see what was coming out of the original ball. And I noticed that pretty much they're the only two I had out of the first bag that ended with the black. So my plan changed. This one will get used later. I have ideas for it, but I've just chucked it on the floor for now. It's fine. So I'm sitting there and I'm making up these hexagons and I'm joining them together as I go. And my mother-in-law's like, what are you making? I think she was after something new. And I was like, I'm making a top. And she was like, really? And I'm like, yeah. So I kept going and I kept going and I've got loads of loose ends. But I made myself a top. Now, it doesn't look like much at the moment, but once it's put on, it looks okay. All right, so there is the top as it stands at the moment, or at least it was, because it was, what are we on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows before I left Australia. Okay, so I'd only got to 5 rows, which is pretty much what you can see now. And it was still a little bit on the short side. So the night before I flew home, I sat in the bedroom, winding up the balls in little balls. Let's look. We've got one there, I think. It's been unwound. Yeah. Winding them up so they're like this. So they're centre pull with the centre to start, ending in, of course, the lightest colourway. And then on the plane, I just sat and crocheted. When I got home, I'd done 22, I think, of these hexagons. Okay, so that's like 1 hour on the flight. Not too much, really. There may have even been more, because I've still got some left over. I've still got another ball left, and my top is now sort of turning into a dress. So it's had another 4 rows put on. So that's 4, 8, 12. That's 16 extras added on so far. Now, as you can see, this is an absolutely beautiful pattern, and it would work really well for a blanket for your sofa. The only drawback is, of course, because it's the granny square yarn, making triangles for the edges is a bit of a pain. And you'll end up wasting a lot of yarn, because you can't just cut the amount in half and go, that's for one, that's for the other, because it doesn't work like that. You won't have enough to sew in unless you go down a hook size and you pull it tight, and then it may not sit so nicely on the rest of the blanket. But it's definitely, you could definitely make a cushion cover nicely with this. But what I'm planning to do is sit down in front of the camera and show you how I did it. So I will show you how I did the hexagon, and then of course how I joined as I went, and then I will show you the basic shape. Okay, if you want any more information than that, there may be a written pattern at a later point. Now, the problem I have is sizing this. It sizes to a 16 to 18 UK, using the amount that I did. If you are smaller or bigger, you're going to have to do some math on it, which is why I don't particularly want to write a pattern, and I'll just release it on the channel as a guess what, you can have a go tutorial. And because sizing these hexagons it's not doable. You can't shrink them down. You can't really, not by much anyway, unless you start cutting into the yarn, and why buy the yarn if you're going to cut into it? But what I would say is, if you are smaller, of course you can swap the yarns out. That's for both larger and smaller. If you're smaller, I would definitely go for a DK or slightly smaller yarn, maybe even a 4-ply. And then if you're larger, you can go down in the weight of yarn, but up in the amount of hexagons you need. But I will discuss that more on the video once I finally get around to making it. If any of you are interested, if you are, pop a comment down below, because I don't particularly want to waste time making videos anymore that nobody watches. Yeah, is that bad? But no, as I said, I don't particularly want to waste time, and I'll happily move on to a different project if it's something that you guys aren't interested in. Right, what else was there? I think it was just those 3 items at this time round. But that's not bad for 2 weeks, surely. I knew there was another item that I'd completely forgotten about. Now, last time when we went to Oz in January, that was a family trip. Okay, so it meant then that I could go to Spotlight a lot more often. I had a bit more crochet time, and we had lots of fun and adventure. Talking of fun and adventure, you will see one of our fun and adventure days coming up this coming week. There is a video going out. It's not crochet related. You may or may not find it interesting. Hopefully you enjoy it though. Okay, so while I was over last time, I was making little emblems, or I can't think what the technical term is, but I was making lots of little shapes. Lots and lots of them. My husband thought I was just making a doily at one point. Mother-in-law thought it might have been a table runner, but no, I got involved into it again, and I'd made another top. So yeah, I'm going through a top phase. Can you tell? Now you will actually see me wearing this one on a future video anyway, or it's come up, I'm not too sure. No, it's come up because it was the giveaway announcement. prize winning announcement. So I was actually wearing that one on that video, and this one is now hopefully going through testers. I have got one gorgeous girl that said she's willing to test. Now it is quite a lot of work involved in it because you're making the emblems and then joining them as you go, and I'm looking for anybody that's interested in testing. But please remember, if you're going to test, you need to be able to read a pattern, okay? And be willing to tell me if you spot any mistakes or if things aren't working out for you based on the way that I've written the pattern. So I only gave you a brief look at that one, but if you liked the rough idea of it or what you could see, then drop me an email saying, yep, I'm up for testing. You will need a true weight of fingering cotton and quite a bit of it, but I will explain more once we're chatting privately, because then I can judge help work out the size for you and what you would need. Okay, and that was it. That's finally 4 items. 1 got finished, 3 are in whip form, but I will get there. And hopefully I'll have this dress finished before this video goes out so I can add a little extra bit in for you. Also, if you fancy testing the mystery pink bag because you think you know what it is and you like that animal, then also drop me an email because that one hasn't got any testers as yet. Okay, so I'm now on to Friday. I've recorded quite a bit of the hexagon dress and showing you how to do it all and everything, and because I was sitting wonky and not propping my arm at the right angle, I've sprained my wrist. So that's going to be on hold for a couple more days until my wrist calms down, and it's the same with all the crochet at the moment. But the positive spin on that means that there's now no ends to sew in because I've done it. So all ends on that are now sewn in. I've done some half hexagons for the bottom, and 3 of those are now joined on as well, but I need to go back to recording that so that I can show you how to make the half hexagons, how to join the half hexagons, the little magic trick that I'm adding in on those to ensure that that sits the same length as the full hexagons. And I've also done 1 shoulder seam. So I've finished off 1 shoulder. I left the other one so that I could record it. That's gonna have to wait. But I showed my husband before I'd done it, and he's going, it's lovely, but it looks like you've got shoulder pads on. So my first attempt at that shoulder I stripped back and did it again, and I showed him last night how far, was it last night? Yeah, last night, how far I'd got with it. And he looked disappointed. He said the shoulder looks wicked, but he liked the bottom of it in its unfinished state before I put the half hexagons on. He never normally says anything, but with this one he's been going, it looks a bit like a sack. And I don't mean to offend, but it's not very shapely, is it? And I'm like, it's not meant to be yet. It's still on the early stages. I'm slowly introducing him to the understanding that most things that I make are boxes because that's the shape I am. He still thinks I've got curves in all the right places. No chance. Yeah, so in regards to me showing you more of this top, that's not gonna sorry, not the top, the dress, that's not gonna happen. I'm gonna keep you on the end of your tether until next week. But as I said, if you love the idea of this one, please make sure you pop a comment in the comment section down below, because if I don't get anything in regards to comments about the dress, I may not record the rest of it because it's awkward and uncomfortable and causes me discomfort. So I'll just sit on the sofa and make it as I would have done normally. But yeah, please, if you love the idea of this one, especially if you can get hold of the yarn, make sure you put that comment in the comment section down below. Okie dokies. So I've run out of stuff to talk about. So I'm going to head off now. I will see you all really, really soon. So please remember, stay chilled, stay happy, and keep crafting. Goodbye, everybody. Oh, and don't forget, give me a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please do. It's free. And that way you won't miss any more crazy antics coming up this month. Right. Ta-ra, everyone.